Welcome to part 1 of the series, where we will explore how religion functions in the survival of civilization and how Islam, by failing these core tests, reveals itself not as a force for long-term flourishing, but as a relic of tribal domination. For most of human history, religion wasn't optional, it was existential. Tribes without binding rituals, shared moral codes, or supernatural threats to keep the psychopathic in check didn't last long. The gods weren't just metaphysical mascots. They were evolutionary hacks, tools our ancestors used to coordinate behavior, enforce cooperation, and build trust in the absence of centralized authority. In that sense, religion is less about metaphysical truth and more about functional utility. You don't need your God to be real. You just need your people to believe he's watching. Societies that developed effective religious frameworks outcompete those that didn't. And over time, the most cohesive, cooperative, and child-rearing optimized groups expanded. The faiths that helped produce those outcomes were the ones that stuck. Monogamy isn't just a moral ideal, it's a social engineering solution. Civilizations that enforced pair bonding between men and women, restricted male sexual access to a single partner, and promoted father involvement in child-rearing saw greater stability, lower violence, and higher long-term investment in offspring. This isn't just romanticism, it's anthropology, backed by data. As Joseph Henrich points out in The Weirdest People in the World, enforced monogamy radically reduces what's known as male-male competition. If a small elite of men monopolize women, as happens in highly polygynous societies, you create a large, angry underclass of single men with no stake in society. What follows is predictable: tribal violence, warfare, and the breakdown of social cohesion. In contrast, monogamous systems force men to compete by becoming reliable, productive partners and fathers. That turns their energy toward economic contribution, not sexual conquest. The result? Societies where more men are invested in the future, not burning it down. This is precisely where Islam fails. While Islam doesn't technically require polygamy, it permits up to 4 wives for men and 0 for women, obviously. In practice, this leads to unequal marriage markets, especially in tribal societies where powerful men collect wives and less powerful men are shut out. Combine that with cousin marriage, which concentrates power within family lines, and you get a recipe not for social harmony, but for resentment, violence, and clannishness. There's a reason radical jihadist movements are filled with sexually frustrated young men. A society that doesn't offer them a path to stability, only a promise of 72 virgins in the afterlife, isn't solving the mating crisis. It's weaponizing it. Strong families are the engine of civilization. They provide structure for children, responsibility for adults, and a multi-generational feedback loop of cultural transmission. When families work, societies don't need surveillance states. Morality, discipline, and values are passed from parent to child, reinforced by shame and honor, not social workers and police. A successful religion doesn't just preach morality, it encodes it into the rhythms of family life. It promotes stable marriages, paternal responsibility, and the sacredness of the child. Islamic tradition, however, does not deliver on these fronts. On paper, Islam looks family-friendly. It encourages marriage, warns against fornication, and calls children a blessing. But in practice, the structural incentives break down, especially when you examine the legal leniency toward abuse and the cultural normalization of violence inside the home. In many Islamic countries, domestic violence is either legal, lightly punished, or culturally accepted. According to a 2013 UN Women's study, over 87% of Egyptian women reported being victims of domestic violence. A 2021 Pew survey found that a significant proportion of Muslims in regions like South Asia and the Middle East believe a husband is justified in hitting his wife under certain conditions. In countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, and Iran, laws either fail to explicitly criminalize domestic violence or enforce it weakly. In some cases, like the infamous Surah 434, violence is even scripturally permitted under the guise of discipline. The concept of children's rights, especially freedom from corporal punishment and forced labor, is poorly protected in many Islamic societies. In Pakistan, Yemen, and parts of Saudi Arabia, child labor is endemic, often enforced within families. UNICEF reports routinely cite child marriage, female genital mutilation, and severe corporal punishment as ongoing issues, frequently defended by religious or cultural justifications. In many Muslim-majority nations, family law is governed by Sharia courts, where a woman's testimony is worth half that of a man's. Mothers often lose custody to the father's family after divorce. Abuse allegations must pass extremely high burdens of proof, and victims are often shamed. This isn't the framework of a healthy family system. It's a patriarchal tribal enforcement mechanism. It prioritizes male control over child welfare and clan loyalty over emotional health. In contrast, moral frameworks shaped by Judeo-Christian influence and Enlightenment ideals have, over time, evolved to protect women and children legally, not just spiritually. Marital rape is criminalized. Corporal punishment is regulated or banned. Welfare systems exist to help abused spouses escape. Are they perfect? No, but they represent a trajectory away from brutality, not toward it. Islam, by contrast, locks its legal system in the 7th century and calls it divine. There is no incentive to evolve, only to obey. Most people are not saints. Most people are not monsters. But every society must account for both. The moral core of a functioning civilization isn't just about inspiring goodness. It's about containing those who are incapable of it. In any population, there's a percentage of individuals who lack empathy, pursue power or pleasure without guilt, or are easily swayed by dominance hierarchies. In clinical terms, narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, and everything in between. Religions that survive long-term don't just guide the kind-hearted. They instruct the average and restrain the dangerous. They do this by wrapping morality in divine command, embedding it in community shame, and reinforcing it with ritual repetition. If you're a psychopath, the only thing that might stop you from lying, stealing, abusing, or killing is the belief that an all-seeing God will catch you, and everyone around you will punish you for stepping out of line. This is where Islam fails catastrophically. Instead of restraining the worst instincts of man, Islam channels them into divine license. Violence, deceit, and domination aren't just permitted. They're sacred when done in service to Allah. Lying, taqiyya, is allowed to protect the faith. Slavery, rape, and child marriage were practiced by Muhammad himself. Killing apostates isn't just allowed, it's celebrated. Women are fields to be plowed. Disobedient wives can be beaten, and non-believers are considered less than human in many classical texts. What kind of message does this send to the psychopath? It says, your darkest impulses are not sins, they're duties. Where Christianity put a leash on the strong to protect the weak, Islam hands the leash to the strong and tells them they were born to lead. And while modern Christianity has spent centuries reforming, apologizing, and adapting to human rights norms, Islam codifies dominance as divine, and reforms are branded heresy. This is why Islamist movements attract not just the devout, but the cruel, the unhinged, and the power-hungry. It is not a bug. It is the system working as designed.